I'll just resume the recording. So let me make a new project right now and we'll start off with Testng. And what is Testng? Testng basically means something which will help you to build test cases. Okay, right. I'll just rename this project to Testng project. Okay. Now, till now, whatever we have seen, we have just made simple scripts. Okay, we never made any test cases, never generated any reports. Okay, we did nothing. Right. So right now in this class, we'll see Testng, we'll see how to generate reports and all everything. Okay. So how do you build test cases with Testng? Right. So what we'll do is that I'll create a new class out here or a new package. Fine. Call it test cases. Inside this package, I'll keep the test cases. Package is like a folder under a folder. Under the source folder, we have the package test cases. Right. Under this package test cases, I'll create a new class known as, say for example, send mail test. This is a test case which will be sending an email. Okay. So what we can do is that we can make @test function. Okay. We can write public void do login. Now what is @test? @test is an annotation in Testng. If I move my mouse over this error, you will get the function add Testng library. Most of you will not be getting it because you don't have Testng installed in your Eclipse as a plugin. I am getting it because I have installed Testng inside my Eclipse as a plugin. So the first thing is that you have to install Testng as a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay, to do that, all you need to do is that you need to just go to Google, right, and just search for Testng Eclipse. Fine. So when you go to the first link, say, and scroll down, click on this, install the plugin, right, you get this page and you can actually copy this URL. This is the URL over here. Okay, copy this URL, go to Eclipse, go to help, install new software. Okay, and paste the URL, hit the enter button of the keyboard. You will have Testng. You select this and you keep on clicking next and you keep on going on clicking next and Testng will be installed as a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay, you can validate whether it is installed properly or not by going to Windows, Show View, Other, and under Java you will find Testng. Okay, during the installation process your Eclipse might also restart, and in between if you get some small error, just ignore that. Okay, just continue. Right. So once you restart, you'll find this Eclipse. Find this Testng. Right. So in Testng you have got these annotations. These are known as annotations. Annotations are basically, you can say, markers which signify that what's stuff is all about. For example, @test annotation, it signifies that this function is a test case. Okay. So if I move my mouse over this error, you will get the option to add the Testng library in the project. You add it and then you will see that Testng library is added. But to make sure that you get that option, you have to make sure that Testng is installed in Eclipse. Okay. Now the next thing is move the mouse again over the error and import the test annotation. You have to import it from the Testng jar. Right. So inside this function I can write system.out.println logging in, and I can also write the regular Selenium code inside this test annotation function. Right. Now after this test annotation, right, after logging in I can make another test annotation, say @test public void do send mail. Okay, and then I can make another test, that means another test case @test public void, say verify send mail, something like this, which will verify whether the mail has been sent or not. Okay, and then we can have another test case @test, say public void logout. So what I did was I just broke down my whole scenario into different test cases, right? Okay, yes, annotation is always starting with @ sign. There are many other annotations. Okay, it will always start with @. So inside it I can write over here sending mail, then verifying, sent mail. Okay, then you can write logging out. Okay, so when you run this code, you will get an output like this, that total test runs are 4, failures are 0 and skips are 0. There is no main function in Testng. Okay, there is no main function. These annotation test functions are executed. If you right click on the Java file, you will also get the option to run it as a Testng test, which you can do. Okay, right. So in Testng you have got these test annotations inside which you will write the code, and you also get one more tab over here, results of running the class. Okay, you click on this tab and you'll see some kind of graphical summary that these are the test cases which got executed. Okay, right. And in the console you'll also see the output over here, logging in, sending mail, logging out and verifying send. Now the order in which these test cases have executed is not the same order in which I had mentioned. Logout is getting executed before verify send mail. Okay, if you look at the output, then logout is getting executed before verifying send mail. So look, the thing is, the order in which these test cases execute, okay, you can't control that. Testng has got its own algorithm through which it runs. But if you want to order your test cases that they should execute in certain order, you can set priority over here like this. That this test case will have priority 1, then the test next to it will have priority 2, then next test case will have priority 3 and priority 4. Okay, right. So when you run this code, now they will run in the orders of their priorities. You see that it's executed in the order in which the priorities were mentioned. So you can prioritize the test cases in a single file as well, and you can run them and you can get a short result over here as well, that whether the test cases they passed or not. Fine. I hope you understood my point. These are different formats. Only the format is different. If you refresh the project, you will see the test output folder, and inside it you will see index.html file. If I open this index.html, hold on, you will see a HTML report, right? And with the 4 functions, not very impressive report. Okay, now out here, just a minute. Just 1 minute. Let me delete this and run it once more. Refresh. Refresh. Yeah. So out here the order is, again, I don't know why it's coming other way around in the reports, but we will not use these reports. Okay, right, we will use the regular extent reports and all, which I will talk about. Okay, for example, I'll just tell you, these reports are not very impressive. Okay, we generate extent reports. They look something like this, wherein you have got the test case is mentioned over here which got executed with the status. And if you click on a test case, you get the detailed logs that what happened when each and every test case was getting executed, right? And at the bottom you will also get the screenshot, okay, of the page or whatever is the failure. You can put the screenshots, embed the screenshots in the reports as well. So we will be looking out at these particular things. Okay, we'll be looking out at these reports, right? So I hope you understood my point. Right. So these are the test cases. These are the predefined annotations, and you can prioritize the test cases. You can make multiple Java files as well. Right. For example, I can make a new class known as registration test. Okay. So in this test, you can again add the rate at test annotation. You can keep the function public void, say register test. Okay. As the name suggests, this will go and register me on any website. Okay. So if I move my mouse over this, I can import this annotation. Right. Now in Testng, you have the feature wherein you can execute one test multiple times as well, or you can have some preconditions, post conditions. You can have say validations. Let's talk about validations. Right. Look, what happens is that in testing we have got, sometimes we have got a expected value, right? Some expected value. The expected value may come from an XLS file or some properties file, like we talked here last time. You keep the data in the files, external files, right? And you have got some actual values. Actual value, what it does, it comes from, hold on, yeah, actual value, what it does is that it comes from the application. With the help of Selenium, you will extract the actual value, for example text on a page or a title. So you have to compare both of them and do the validation. In Testng we have got something known as assert class. This assert class helps us to do the validations and complete the validation processes, right? You move the mouse over this assert class, you'll get the option to import this assert, and make sure you import it from org.testng.assert, okay, not from JUnit. Many times people end up importing from JUnit, okay, right? So out here, if you write assert dot, hold on, you will get lot of functions, okay, right? So you can, what you can do is that you can write assert dot, hold on, assert equals. You can give the actual value first and expected value later on. In this case, both the values are same. So if you run this code, this test is going to pass. Okay. If you keep both of them different, right? If you keep expected and actual values different, right? And if you run it, this is going to fail. And it will somewhere mention over here as well that expected value was something but you got something else. So you can compare actual and expected values and pass or fail the test case like this. You can also use a command like this, another type of assertion, assert dot assert true. Okay, you have to give some condition over here, for example 2 greater than 1, and in the message you have to give the corresponding error message. Now what does this mean and how it is used? Okay, hold on, you'll come to know, right? 2 greater than 1, what is it? Actually it is true. 2 greater than 1 is true, that is 2 is greater than 1. Okay, so that means, okay, this condition is evaluating to true. So this assertion will pass because I am writing assert true. But if I write over here 2 greater than 11, this assertion will fail, and in the reports you will have this error message coming up. Whatever is the error message you write will come up in the report. If you run this, it will fail, and you see that in the report error message came up. This is actually coming from here. Okay, now when this is used, I had made functions like this, right? Is element present, which you will pass over the XPath of the element, and this function will tell you whether the element is present on the page or not. So you can call a function like that. If the function returns false, that the element is not present, you can send the error message as say element not found or something. Okay, so you can use this type of assertion as well. Right, now sometimes you are very sure that the test case has failed. Right. For example, the form did not submit successfully. You found out that fine, you were not able to submit the form successfully. You never reached the next page. And you are sure that you want to fail the test case. Okay. So you can write over here assert dot fail with whatever error message you want. You can send that error message over here. So assert dot fail will simply fail the test case. No questions asked, it will fail it. So when you run it, it will simply fail and the error message will come up in the reports as well. So these are the three types of assertions which you will be using a lot. Okay, assert equals, assert true, and this error message over here you can write. Sometimes you don't want to execute a test case. Say you are executing 50 test cases, and out of 50 you just want to execute say 20, and you want to skip 30 of them. Sometimes this is the scenario. Okay, so what you do is that in that case you write throw new skip exception in the test case. Okay, skipping the test you can mention, right? You can import this, and when you run this code, right, hold on, right, so what this will do, this will run the code and it will skip the test case. Okay, in the reports also you will see yellow sign, which means that the test case has skipped, and whatever is the message mentioned will come out here. Okay, so you can skip the test case, you can fail the test case. Alright, through assertions and all, through assertions you can validate the values, right? So I hope you understood my point. We pass it from the Excel file. We mentioned the test cases in the Excel file. Over there we mentioned that this test case has to be executed and this is not to be executed. So we pass that parameter from the Excel file into the test case. Okay, we'll see that. We'll see that. I'm just explaining you the concepts of Testng right. Okay, right. Sometimes you want to access say one test case multiple times. You want to execute say this registration test different times with different sets of data. Okay, right. So how do you manage that? Okay, how do you execute one set of data, one test case with different sets of data? Well, the answer is very simple. Okay, you have to use another annotation known as @data provider. Okay, this annotation function will send the test case the required data. Okay, right. So hold on, just a minute. Yeah. So what you will do is that @data provider, you write public void get data function. So this function would send the data inside this test. You import this data provider, okay, and you will send the data from this data provider to the test case. Now what happens? What actually happens? Right. All of you, do you know about two-dimensional arrays? You know about two-dimensional arrays, right? So over here we make a two-dimensional array like this. It's got different rows and columns like this. Okay, right, and it's got columns like this. You're right. So the number of rows in this two-dimensional array are equal to number of times you want to execute the test. Suppose if I want to execute the test 5 times, 5 different times, so I will have 5 rows, and number of columns are equal to number of parameters in the test. For example, in registration test, you might have parameters like username, password, phone number. So each time when you execute, how many number of parameters are there in the test, we keep them in the number of columns. So every cell over here has an index. Many of you must be knowing this is 0, 0. Okay, if I talk about this one, this is 3, 1, right? Okay, so in the get data function, we make a two-dimensional object array. We specify the number of rows and number of columns. That means 3 rows means that first parameter is rows. 3 rows means that you have to run this 3 times, and 4 columns means that every time you will have 4 sets of data. So if I fill up my first row, okay, I will have to write over here data 0, 0 equals to say some username 1. Sorry. Then you can specify second row, third row, fourth row, some password, say password 1, some email ID, email 1 say gmail.com, and some phone number. Okay, right. So this is my first row. Similarly, you can fill up the other rows as well. Okay, you can fill up the other rows. Hold on. This will be my second row. Okay, it will be 1 over here, say username 2, password 2, email 2, and some other phone number, right? Similarly, I can fill up the other row, which is the last one, third row. Okay, username 3, password 3, email 3, and so on. So I want to call this function first with this set of data, then execute the test with this set, and then with this. So for that, I have made the two-dimensional object array. Okay, you have to tell the test case now that the data is coming up from the data provider get data. Okay, data is coming up from this data provider. Okay, right. So the first step is you make a two-dimensional object array, keep the data inside it, keep the two-dimensional object array in a data provider, and you return the data array. Okay, over here you have to mention that this function returns you a two-dimensional object array. You have to mention it like this. Okay, the second step is you have to link the test case with the data provider, and the third step is inside the test case you have to have input parameters equal to number of columns. Because what Testng will do, Testng will go to this test case, it will read that fine data is coming from here. Okay, it will go over here, it will find three columns. So it will say that fine, sorry, three rows, not columns, three rows. It will say that fine, first I'll execute this row. So it has to pass these parameters somewhere. It will pass them inside the function arguments. Okay, username, password, string, email. So you have to have four parameters inside the function over here. The number of parameters in the function should be equal to number of columns. Okay, and that's it. That's it. Rest of it, Testng will actually, it will take care of it. And if you run this, you will see that total test cases are executed are 3. Okay, and in the third one it is sending null. Okay, it should be 2. I did not make it 2. Right. So if you run this now, it will run 3 times with different sets of data. Okay, you don't have to do anything else, just these configurations have to be correct. The two-dimensional array should be correct, the test should be linked with the data provider. Okay, and you should have input parameters. That's it. Anybody with any questions? Anyone? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Look, Selenium will get you the actual value from the application. For example, driver.getTitle will give you the title of the page. Driver.findElement by some locator dot getText will give you the text of that link. Okay, expected value you can keep it in the Excel file or any other file. So expected value, the actual value will come up from Selenium. The expected will come up from the file, and assert is from Testng. Testng is not just used with Selenium. It is a unit testing framework. It can be used with anything. Okay, it is not meant for Selenium. We use it with Selenium because it helps us to build test cases. Selenium will not tell you how to build test cases. Okay, so this command is from Testng. It will help you, compare two values and come down to certain conclusion and whether the test has to be passed or failed. Okay, so now this is fine, right? So we can make test cases the way I told you over here. We can prioritize them. We can parameterize a test case as well. We can link a data provider. Okay, there are other annotations as well, right? For example, there is one annotation @ before test, public void, I'll name it before test, and inside it I will print before test. Okay, I'll just print this. There is one more annotation @ after test. Okay, I will just copy this. Right, import this. Right, so when you run this, as the name suggests, before and after test will be executed once, before executing all the test cases before test and after executing after test. So suppose you have some database connection which has to be established with database, that can be done in before test, or you want to have, say you want to open the browser, you can open it in before test, use the browser in all the 4 test cases, and in after test you can probably close down, right? So this is used a lot. Okay, right. There is another annotation which is used more, that is @before method. We'll see all of them practically as well. Right now I'm just explaining you how it works. Okay, before method. Okay, in this I just put star @before method, and the location of these annotations, it doesn't matter, they will be executed in a predefined order. That order is predefined. Okay, right, you don't have any control over that order, everything is predefined, right? The order of execution of annotations, if even if I keep it at the end of the file or in the beginning, it will execute in the order which is predefined. Okay, so if I run this code, I get an output like this. Before method and after method are executed before and after executing each and every test function, right? So you can be used, for example, if you have to generate reports, you want to generate a separate report for every test case. In before method you can initiate the reports of of that test case. In after method you can say the test case is over, close the report for this test case. In the next before method you'll open a new report. Okay, something like this, right? So these annotations will be used a lot. Apart from these, there are many other annotations as well. Okay, I am not talking about those annotations right now. So primarily we have got these annotations which we talked about: @test, before test, okay, after test, then before method, after method, and there is one more annotation which I talked about, that was data provider. Okay, so we will be using all these annotations with us, or in the project and all, whatever project we do, we will be using these annotations a lot. Okay, right. Apart from this, you have some other things in Testng as well. Till now, I can execute, say, send mail test. I want to execute this file. I can click on the run button. I want to execute registration test. I can run it and I can execute it. It will run multiple times. But if I want to run both these Java files together, I want to batch run the test cases. I want to run different Java files and all the test cases under those Java files. I want to run them together. Okay, so you can use something known as testng.xml for that. Okay, let me show you. This is testng.xml. I'll keep it under the project. It's a predefined file which I have used. You can take it from me, right? So you can mention the test cases in this file, and the test cases will be executed in the order they have been mentioned. For example, first of all, I want to execute my register test. You can give any name over here. Okay, but out here you have to give the fully qualified class name representing this particular test cases. That is test cases dot reg test. Okay, you have to give the package name followed by the name of the test. Package name followed by the name. It is case sensitive, it is very crucial. Over here you can give any name, whatever name you want. Okay, you can put any irrelevant name, but in the classes representing the test you have to give the right name. Okay, the second test case was sending mail test. You can give any name over here, but over here you will have to write test cases dot send mail test. The same test case over here, whatever is the name of the Java file. So first this test case will execute, then this test case will execute. The order will be from top to bottom. Okay, you can right click on the XML file, select the option run as Testng suite. You will get this option. So when you run it, you will see that it runs as a Testng suite. Okay, the total test runs are 7, right? And if you look at the results, you see that first register test got executed, right, with all 4 sets of data. Fine, sorry, 3 sets, and then send mail test got executed, in which we had these 4 functions. The Testng report, which was actually generated earlier, if I refresh this, that will also convey the same thing, but in an unordered manner, right? So you can batch run through testng.xml. So when we do a project, when we will do a framework like a page object model or hybrid framework, or even in Cucumber sometimes, right, you will be using this testng.xml. You can jot down all the test cases in this testng.xml and run them in the serial order from top to bottom. Okay, you can also run the test cases parallelly. Okay, let me show you one example. Hold on. I'll make a new Java project. Okay, call it testng underscore parallel, right? And inside this Java project, I will, under the source folder, I'll create a new package, right? Call it, say, test cases again. Fine. And inside this package, I'll create some Java files, right? Like test A, then test B, then test C. Okay, right. In test A, I can write @test public void test A. Okay, just hold on. I'll tell you what I am doing. Right. You add the testng library to the project. You import the test annotation, and you write over here starting A, and you write over here ending A. Right. And in between you give thread dot sleep for say 5 seconds. Okay, right. So @test means that this is a test annotation. Fine. You will be starting A, you will be sleeping for 5 seconds and ending A. Similarly, in test B, you can have this, wherein you will be starting B, ending B, and there is a gap of 5 seconds in between. Right. And in C as well, you will write test C. Okay, so you will have these 3 Java files which can be executed independently, right? Or I can have testng.xml in this project, through which I can execute them serially in batch. I can execute test cases dot test A, I can mention over here, right? Similarly, I can write test cases dot test B, and similarly I can mention test C out here. So if I run this testng.xml, right click on it, run as testng suite. So you will see that first test A will start, it will wait for 5 seconds. Okay, ending A, then B will start because after A, B had to come. And then C will start after 5 seconds. C will also end. right? So I am serially running all the three tests. I can also parallelly run all the three tests. All I need to do is that for this suite I just need to write parallel equals to tests. So what will happen is that all the three test cases will be invoked parallelly. If I run this code, you see that starting ABC and after that ending ABC comes up. So these are running parallelly. Okay, again I run it. Now ACB, there is a slight order difference. That's fine. After 5 seconds, all three will end. So all three are invoked together with a slight microsecond difference. That's why the order comes up and they end up right nearly after 5 seconds. So anybody with any questions in this? Anyone having any questions in this? It's clear, right? Fine. Now, in case, then the question arises, why do we use grid? Selenium grid is to execute the test cases parallelly, right? Okay, then why do we use grid? We can run it parallelly with Testng. Look, it is not Selenium, first of all, it is not Selenium grid which runs the test cases parallelly, it is Testng. If you want to run the test cases parallelly on a single machine, you don't need grid. You can do it like this. You just mention the test cases and make them parallel. But in case you have got multiple machines, then you have to use grid. You make a central machine. This central machine is known as a hub. And you connect many other machines to it. These other machines are known as nodes. Okay. Your code lies on hub. On hub you keep your code. And that code, test cases in the code will be executed parallelly on multiple machines. What happens is that code is a regular Testng code. Testng will have this parallel attribute and Testng will send the test cases parallelly to the hub. Test cases will try to run the test cases parallelly on the single machine which is hub, but hub will actually assign the test cases to the nodes. This is how parallel execution in multiple machines happen with grid. Okay, in grid, the central machine hub is the place where you keep the code and Testng invokes the code test cases parallelly, and the hub, it assigns different machines to the test cases. Okay, we will see that. I am just giving you the concept, the idea right now, that what happens. Okay, right. So fine. So this is about Testng, and a very good idea about Testng I have given you. Fine. Whatever you need in Selenium, otherwise it's also a world in itself. It's got a lot of features. Listeners are there. We used to use listeners, but these days extent reports have come up, so we have dropped down the idea of listeners, right? Then you have got data providers to run the test case multiple times with different sets of data. Okay, now you can also integrate it with build tools like Ant and all. Like let me open the syllabus. Hold on. Right, so I talked about Testng, right? I did not talk about reporting an Ant. I did not talk about how to generate extent reports, how to run it with Ant. We will do it when we actually do the frameworks. When we start with the frameworks, you will come to know, okay, how to run it with Ant and all, everything. Okay, right. Now have you guys tried on the exercises?